All right. I wanted to watch this. This is a Need More Amalek clipped up of our Superman aficionado here, Dr. Robert Price. I want to watch. All right. I don't need to pee. My back's not hurting too bad. We'll watch this one. Okay. Let's hear how Robert Price. This is 9 minutes to explain how Jesus is a myth. I'm not the biggest fan of his writing. He's been writing books for decades about Jesus being a myth. I got my issues with him, but he is a pioneer of Jesus mythicism. Let's see how good he is of explaining this. If there's anything I could pick up on here.
My first question to the both of you is
1.5. Need More Amalek says I could do 1.5 maybe. Is this not that good? He shit the bed in his debate with Bart Ehrman. It's like, okay, opening statement, argue Jesus is a myth, and it was like trash.
reconstruct the historical Jesus, or to try to know.
I'll let Dr. Price go first.
Just beat me to deferring to you. Yeah. Well, for one thing, there's no real biographical evidence about this character. He does not connect with secular history in the way, for instance, that Caesar Augustus does. There's somebody about whom some of the same type legends told, including the slaughter of the innocents kind of thing, and the miraculous conception, calling his story a gospel, etc. But there's no way that there was no Octavian.
It's probably the same guy,
right? He's just too connected to Jesus. Now, somebody might say, "Price, you are insane," which may well be true, but not because of this. It seems to me that though the figure of the gospel Jesus, the Jesus, the figure of Christian theology, obviously swept the world and has determined much of history, that's not quite the same issue as to whether, when you examine that picture of Jesus in the Gospels, whether it has any rootage in history. And it seems, of course, at first that it does, because after all, isn't Jesus connected with Pontius Pilate? We know he was a historical figure. We have two different ancient writers talking about
the problem with Price is he takes a long time to say anything.
Of Alexandria.
It's like meandering. He's got a meandering boomer brain.
From everything both of them say about Pilate, the gospel portrayal of Pilate doesn't seem at all to fit. According to Philo and Josephus, Pilate was basically a Jew hater who outraged the people he was governing every chance he got. This person, had he actually had charge of the Jesus of the Gospels, would have squashed him like a bug, whereas he is pictured as somebody in Jesus' corner who says, well, what do I have to do to get you guys to give me permission not to execute Jesus? Why is he at the mercy of just a nameless mob of roustabouts beneath his
Yeah, Need More Amalek is way better at this than Dr. Price. Could you imagine Dr. Price in a space trying to deconvert some Christian? He'd just like talk for 20 minutes and like barely get the point out that Jesus and Barabbas is a fake story and Pilate would have never been offering up to release somebody to the Pharisees. That's end of point. How can I say it in 5 seconds and it takes him 5 minutes?
Balcony, that's just not Pilate. He's willing to let go an anti-Roman insurrectionist killer and to execute a man he repeatedly exonerates. What's the problem with this guy? What has he done? But he nonetheless lets himself get bullied into sentencing Jesus to flogging and crucifixion. Similarly, Herod the Great. I mean, surely Jesus is connected with Herod the Great, right? Well, there's a big problem there because, of course, Herod the Great has only to do with the story and the slaughter of the innocents. And, of course, Herod was a bloodthirsty paranoid.
All right, you're gone. Lone.
That's true. That's
go kvetch somewhere else.
True. But not only does Josephus, who catalogs the abuses of Herod the Great, say nothing about this. The whole story seems to be based on Josephus's version of the Moses nativity with Pharaoh's slaughter of the innocents, and even more so than the basic Exodus story. What are the chances of that? It just seems to me that it's much more likely it's a literary borrowing. Caiaphas, the high priest, well, we know he existed. They even found his tomb. Yeah, but the only thing we hear about him is that on Passover Eve, he skips the Seder just to go to a kangaroo court hearing for Jesus. This is like the Pope saying, look, somebody else is going to have to take the Easter service here because I got something to do. No, it's just a villain to his act, and so on and so forth. It all seems artificial, just like the occasional mentions of other historic Roman era potentates in fictional novels. It's just like it was today. People do docudramas that aren't very docu. And so that vanishes. And that's just part of the problem. The other side of that is that there is no shortage of points in common between the gospel of Jesus and the
Swindlers List 109 sent $5 on Rumble. Hey Adam, I figured I'd throw a few shekels your way. I believe the key to our salvation is spreading awareness to the Jacob/Esau dialectic. More people need to understand what Jews think of Europeans.
The Jacob-Esau thing is such a foundational aspect of Judaism. People absolutely need to understand that. That's crucial to understand the why we say Christianity is a controlled opposition dialectic as well. So yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Swindlers. Do I think there's hope that Leonardo Jordi can be deconverted? Honestly, a little bit of hope. Yeah, I do think so. We've had some little feuds and tiffs back and forth on Twitter, but I like her. I went and saw her comedy show. And she's also defended me as well from some slander. So, yeah, hopefully. Maybe I should get her on and have a big old Jesus talk, a Jesus intervention. Maybe she can make that funny for me.
The mythic hero archetype. All of the boxes are checked. There's an annunciation of the infant. There is a child prodigy story where he turns out to be more wise than his elders. There is a commissioning story where the heavenly voice summons him to his task, just as in the case of Abraham and Zoroaster and others. Then there are miracles of various sorts attributed to him, including ones that specifically contrast his ability to heal anybody whom he doesn't even personally know, contrasting, I say, with sad cases of people seeking help from ordinary AMA-certified physicians and getting bupkis for their efforts. But Jesus, bingo, immediately. Jesus is said to heal zillions of people in mobs wherever he goes. Now, I know there are people that claim to be healers today, but people with a success.
Organic Andy, okay, are you asking me this 10 times? Do you really believe in the pagan gods? No. No. But they are the myths of my ancestors. They're just as real as Jesus. They don't tell me that salvation comes from the Jews. They don't involve me bowing down to the God of the Jews in Israel and Zion. No, I revere the myths of my ancestors because they are our myths.
This record like that? I don't think.
But no, I don't think they're real.
And
Obviously
of course,
not.
He's betrayed by the very crowds that loved him and prosecuted, unjustly condemned, and he dies on a hilltop. Oddly enough, a common feature of these stories.
There's nothing Jews hate more than the pagan gods. Also, keep that in mind. They prefer Jesus to the pagan gods.
And then there's confusion as to where he's buried. And when they find it, he's not there. He's been taken to heaven, from which he then briefly reappears to give a pep talk to his followers. If you fill in the blanks, it's you could be talking about Jesus, Oedipus, Apollonius of Tyana, the Buddha, etc., etc., etc. So you've got to ask yourself, though we weren't there, we don't have a time machine, we can't actually verify or falsify, what seems more probable? That such a figure of such a description, to whom such feats are attributed, was one lone historical instance of this, or that he's one of the apples in the barrel labeled mythic heroes, and the historian can only deal with provisional conclusions, probabilistic theories held open to disconfirmation or revision. And based on that, if you're taking a historical approach, the burden really is on the shoulders of the people that would say there was a historical gospel-like Jesus. And, I forgot one of my major points here. Virtually every story of Jesus in the Gospels, plus several in the book of Acts about the apostles, can plausibly be argued to represent a rewritten version of various Old Testament stories of Joshua, David, Moses, Elijah, Elisha. Feeds multitudes with just a little bit of food, etc., etc., etc. Again, what's more likely, that somebody actually did these impossible feats, or that somebody just rewrote a very popular scriptural story that everybody knew? Well, obviously, it's the latter, and that's what I think happened. Sure don't know it, don't have a time machine, but it seems to me highly the most probable position that there was no historical Jesus.
Okay, not too bad. He made a couple good points. I think he could have made all those points in 3 minutes instead of 10, but maybe he was in no rush.